Hello everyone and welcome to this video. So today I wanted to share with you guys an over-the-board game I played against a very strong opponent who was rated above 2200 elo, actually over 2300 in his peaks, so Fidemaster. And yeah, I thought this game was really interesting and I just wanted to share this with you guys. So let's go through the moves. So I played e4, which is my standard opening. My opponent replied with e5. I went knight f3, and here already he played a nice move, d6, which is very. I always consider this to be like somewhat ambitious in a way. That it's not a standard opening, and he of course was a big favorite in our game. So it makes a lot of sense to play something that's maybe not. That's maybe not like completely well known for everyone. And but okay, I went d4 here, just going more space in the center. Makes a lot of sense. Black's bishop is already blocked in, so I just try to be quick. He took on d4, and now it's a little bit of my personal touch. Computer probably just wants to capture and gives a nice advantage for white. I went with bishop c4 here, just developing and maybe putting some threats against f7, which is my favorite square, of course, as everyone knows. Keep in mind, I'm not really strong on theory, never was, but I thought this shouldn't be too bad. In the game, he went bishop e7, just covering, and let me just turn this off for now. And now I took on d4. Just grabbing a nice center, and I felt like this shouldn't be too bad, right? My opponent attacked my pawn on e4, so I have to protect this. I played knight c3, and already here this is a quite common theme. Black often in these positions has the threat of sometimes taking anyway, and after white recaptures, going d5, sorry, forking both of the pieces in the center. In this position, it's however not a good idea, because if you take now, I actually have time to take on f7 first, and after king takes, knight takes. This should be. Let me just put this on the board. I don't think this can be too great. Okay, actually, the computer wants to play queen here immediately, but it's the same theme. That this is the weak spot. Okay, but in the game, my opponent of course didn't take. He castled. I castled, and now's the time. My opponent took on e4, and here I actually already made a quite significant mistake, because in this position I'm supposed to just recapture, and after d5 just retreat with my bishop, after which black has to take, white has to take, and this position still gives a slight advantage to white. However, I already got a little bit greedy, and I took on f7 anyway. And now the point is, and I realized this shortly after, like 2 or 3 moves after, black just recaptures with his rook. I take his knight, and he went d5 here. Keep in mind, this is equal material. I have two knights in the center, but now my opponent just gets more pawns in the center quickly. And so in this position, I have to retreat my knight, who actually only has like 3 squares here, where he's not going to get captured immediately. And I feel like these two are probably not a good idea, because if I go here, then he might just play c6, and it's a big pawn chain in the center. So I figured this couldn't be too great. So I went to g3. Because I felt like, okay, maybe this can be a soft spot in some cases, with both my knights already standing there. But the thing is, he just gets c5 immediately, and this already not ideal. And here's kind of where I realized this wasn't maybe too great for me, because my initial idea was to just retreat here. But the problem is, if I do go knight f3 here, he just gets bishop here, and this is probably already terrible, because I simply cannot protect this knight. And now the rook's already in play, and this was quite instructive for me. this wasn't a good idea. So after c5 instead, I went knight e2, and this is still like I would say playable. It's minus 0.6, not a big deal, but you can already tell that Black surely won this opening. He has two bishops, he has pawns in the center. His king is a little bit like, this is not ideal, but it's probably not too easy to exploit, especially because his rook is also active, while mine is staring behind the pawn. But okay, so here is the first time. Keep in mind, my opponent blitzed all of this versus me, who was out of opening theory from move 2. He took a little bit of a think, and he went for a quite interesting maneuver, which was knight to a6, and simply going for just supporting the pawn like this, and maybe eventually advancing. In this position, I just played c3, which I believe is always a useful move in these structures. I just want to make sure that he doesn't advance. I'm never gonna go for I'm never gonna go for fianchetto. This just looks terrible with this backwards pawn, because now if I ever play c5, he's just gonna push, and this is I was quite convinced that this can't be any good. So I played c3 instead, and after knight c7. My idea was to challenge this knight with bishop f4. So now I'm actually threatening to take, and after king goes here, I take here. And this is also a nice touch that the knight is actually standing here, and so yes, he has to do something about this. And in the game, he just kicked my bishop again with knight to e6, but I felt like this is probably not too big of an issue, because at least the knight is somewhat loose here, because there's no pawns protecting me anymore, and ideally the bishop also wants to develop on the long diagonal. So in this position, I went queen d2. Just making sure that I'm not dropping this. I don't want to move this bishop because then he gets like too big of an initiative. So instead, I want to play active, get my rooks into the game, and just take it from there. In this position also, I set like a little bit of a trap, because you might be tempted to take this bishop, and after knight recaptures to pin it with bishop here. And if I have to play something like this, it's probably very obvious that this is good for black. But in this position, I actually have a tactical idea. I can take here, and the point is black doesn't have time to capture the knight, because then his queen is hanging, and you see the computer already gives an equal. Gives an equal sign here. I'm actually okay. I'm a little bit surprised that this is a move, because this is hanging, right? So what actually happens after this? Oh, it's not hanging. The queen's protecting. Okay. But yeah, that was just a small little. I wouldn't even call it a trap, but it's an idea that's in the position. So here, my plan is very simple, right? I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna threaten this. So in the game, my opponent played b6. Just getting ready to develop the bishop and protecting this again. I went rook d1, makes a lot of sense to me. And again, same motif after takes. This is hit a lot of times, and this doesn't work, because then I take here, and then actually also the rook is hanging. So still not possible. In the game, he just protected his d5 pawn with his bishop, and it makes this look a little bit silly, but keep in mind the idea is always to stop this, right? So here I took a little bit of time to think what I wanted to do, and I had two ideas here. The first was maybe to bring my queen in and hit the knight, because the rook's still like always pinning this. I could also do rook e1, which makes sense, but you always have to keep in mind that unprotects f2, and it's not entirely sure if this f rook where this f rook actually wants to be. So instead, I went for a different idea, and I said, okay, so you have no pawns on these two squares. I'm okay with trading bishops. So instead, I played bishop e5, which I believe is actually a decent idea, with the idea of then maybe pushing f4, f5 at some point. and just solidifying this. It looks a little bit scary because the bishop is a little bit out of squares. But to actually attack it, he would have to use his dark squared bishop. Trade of bishops is obviously good for me because he has the bishop pair and I don't. And if he has to reroute his knight again, he loses a lot of time, and I figured I would have time to maybe get out of dodge by that time with my bishop. He instead went for a different idea. He played Queen E8 here, I believe. Getting ready to go on this diagonal and actually just getting out of the semi-open file here. So this move made a lot of sense to me. Here again, I was a little bit unsure. Maybe it's now time to bring one of the rooks in on this file, because this file is actually open, despite there being five pieces on it. But instead, I followed through with my initial idea. I played f4. And just asking some questions about where this knight eventually wants to go. And keep in mind, like now that this rook is standing here, his queen is on the light squares now, so there's no real danger to my king on this diagonal. And it made sense to me to maybe activate my rook via this way, right? Here, my opponent played, I believe, the best move, which is Queen c6, and you can also tell by the eval, the computer still likes black here, and he just has a very serious threat of going d4 here. So in this position, I wasn't entirely sure if this is the way to go. But I was getting ready to meet d4 with an active reply. So I didn't want to move my knight, which actually only can go here to protect this. Rook f2 is not really a move I want to play here, and king move doesn't do anything. This is still unprotected, right? So I went for an active play. I went with f5. Just further advancing and getting ready to maybe protect g2 like this. Just giving another space for my knight. This is obviously very secure, at least for the moment. And if my opponent has to move his knight here, I believe I achieved something, and keep in mind, like now that the queen is actually protecting this and blocking the bishop, this can sometimes be attacked as well, right? And maybe in some ideal world, I maybe get an f6 at some point. During analysis, we were going through some ideas here for black. I was like the first move I was worried about was obviously bishop g5. Let's just switch on the edge in here, after which I actually have to block with the knight, or should rather. I briefly considered sacking my queen like this, but the thing is, after the idea being this, and then takes here, and this is probably even, this is completely winning for white, because you get here, and after this is actually almost a checkmate. But the thing is, he just takes here first with a check, and after I take, this is not enough material, unfortunately. So I discarded this, and probably have to block in some way with the knight, and we get a little bit of a different game. However, in this position, my opponent decided to play d4 anyway. Just to reiterate the threat of checkmate, but now I at least have an active reply to make sure I don't get killed here, which is actually I can capture here, which I did. And now the point is, if he takes my knight, I get to take here, and I'm temporarily up a pawn. Where probably rooks get traded, and getting trades in is probably favors me at this point, because my king's actually slightly more unsafe. So if he takes here, I believe this is actually okay. It still gives an advantage for black, but you can see there's a lot of trades going on, and eventually, okay, the computer wants to do this because I can't take because of checkmate, but it's not entirely clear to me how black actually wins this, and it wasn't to him either. So instead, he actually grabbed my knight. With this knight, I have to capture now, else I'm down a piece. And after takes, I still have a lot of issues to answer for. In this position, I actually took a quite long think. I believe I was already down a decent amount of time at this point, but I felt like this was another critical moment. And so I didn't really want to take here, simply because I wasn't sure that after my bishop gets pinned, I have to be very careful that there's no just to put this on the board. Like if I go here, and then I do like a nothing move like this, he can actually already take here, because if takes back, my queen gets pinned and I can resign immediately, right? So I probably can like defend this somehow, but my idea was after rook here to go queen f2, and thing is though, after I saw this idea, I decided that it might be a better idea, because my queen can't really ever leave this file anyway, right? And I want my rook to hit this pawn and my bishop and not my queen. So in the game, I decided to play queen f2 immediately, threatening to capture it next, and overprotecting this again, making sure there's no shenanigans here. But as you can see by the eval, and also as calculated by my opponent, black has a very, very strong idea here, and I didn't really consider this too much. But after he played it, makes a lot of sense. He just pushed his pawn, and this is not really a threat, because I can always block with the bishop. But the secondary point is, and this is what I missed in the game, is that after white captures, which I did. I mean, the thing is, there's not really any great like alternatives. Like I was always like thinking about pushing this, and maybe after black captures to play something like this. Point being, if he takes, I get a check here, and then this file is wide open. But the thing is, at this point, he can probably just take with the bishop. Or no, actually in this position he just goes here, and then this is completely over. But just to give an idea, maybe in a position like this also, this could sometimes be playable. But after he pushed, I just took the pawn, and I didn't see the follow up. Which was so the computer wants to go here and just exploit this pin forever. But what my opponent played also looked convincing in the moment, which was bishop a6, which was always a tricky move to see in these types of positions. But it just wins an exchange here. And at this point, I'm already like pretty much fighting for a draw only. And this was a very nice touch. The little bit sad part is that I don't even have a move like queen f3, targeting his queen, because the problem is both of my rooks are hit. So even if I get one of them out of the diagonal, the other still drops, right? So that's no good. In the game, however, I think I made a quite decent practical decision. Which was, since I'm going to lose one of my rooks anyway, and he has a light squared bishop, I went rook c3, hitting his queen. And now the point is, he doesn't have time to move his queen, because if he moves his queen now, I actually get to consolidate and somewhere, and he doesn't get any advantage, right? So he has to block with his bishop here. And after bishop c5, keep in mind my queen's still hit. I was quickly considering this, but I wasn't too sure here, because I thought he's just gonna take here. And eventually, I believe, let's maybe quickly check this. If he goes here, yeah, he's just gonna capture, and after takes, he can even temporarily sack his queen, because at the end of the day, this is a very, very easy endgame. For a player of this caliber, I have one pawn against the exchange, which is just not enough to hold the position. So, like I said, I believe I made a quite decent practical decision, which was I just sacked my exchange on c5 instead, and after something like this, this is at least less easy to convert, because now it's the same position as before, but now there's opposite colored bishops in the position, and I get an active rook. So I thought this was a lot less easy to convert. Probably he still would have managed, but it's a more challenging way, let's say. But instead, my opponent decided to keep queens on the board, and here I at least get like some ideas of making a couple of active moves now. Now that I'm down material, I have to create threats myself and make sure that he doesn't get like an easy endgame win. So this was another kind of big decision for me, because there's two candidate moves here that both make sense. Keep in mind the rook still hits, so I have to move. And it was going to be either rook d1 or rook c1. Both like being somewhat active. My initial idea was going here, with the idea of sometimes entering like this. After maybe getting some flight square for my king. However, I wasn't entirely sure that after rook here, I wasn't sure what to do after he just blocks the open file like this, because I didn't really want to like this. This was kind of difficult for me to calculate what happens after something like this. If I even can take here, and I was thinking probably not. Let's see with the computer. Okay, the computer wants to play h3 first. It's not really something I wanted, because I understand that this works not into the game. But I just trade material, and I wasn't entirely sure with the backbank issues. So instead, I went for my second idea, which was rook c1. Probably also fine. Getting a tempo here, and now I believe my opponent played an active reply, which is of course what I was worried about. He went rook d8, and still I don't really want to take here, because my back wing is just too weak. And keep in mind the bishop is still like eyeing f1, so any knight f1 idea always very, very, very sketchy. So in this position, I didn't take the pawn. Instead, I went for what I believe was a decent practical idea. I now decided to push f6, and this is from a human perspective. I believe this is a move you hate to see from a black perspective, because it puts you in a very hard decision. And the decision you now have is, do you really want to take? There's probably no immediate issue with that, but it gives a huge square for the knight, right? So this is something you actually discard quite quickly. Maybe let's quickly check. This might not even work, but let's just see what happens. Yeah, okay, white just wants to do, so there's no immediate knight here, but white just retreats, and 0.5, this is already like getting drawish, and I would even say easier to play as white for the draw at this point. So this is not really something you want to do, right? But I mean, what are your alternatives? You can play extremely passive and go like rook f8, but at that point you still have the same issue. Like, how are you ever going to take? Are you just going to sack the exchange back? Because at that point you might already not have enough material. Keep in mind, I'm still at least I'm up a pawn for the exchange, and there's still opposite colored bishop if you want to push for a win, right? So my opponent again played a very human move, g6, just making sure there's no knight entry. And with the drawback, however, that now this is a very, very strong outpost, and it's protected by the bishop, and you can never win this pawn for free, because I will never leave this diagonal with my bishop, and I just keep this as as an outpost. And you can see already by the engine it gave 0-0. So I already achieved a lot here over the last couple of moves, playing somewhat active and making life hard. Also at this point, after these 2 moves happens, now you have to be a little bit worried actually that I am going to take here. Because now I'm actually okay with trading queens because I have this, and this rook just is out of the game. So again, he went for what I believe was a very human approach, which was or actually it's my move here. I went h4. Simply to get sorry, this is what I meant. Now I'm actually threatening to take here because now there's no back rank issue, of course, and I can just go king h2, play on the dark squares, and be very, 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 very safe. So now is the point where I'm actually threatening here. In this position, this is another computer move. The computer just wants to play queen here and win a pawn. I can tell you, even if you see this move, you are very reluctant to play this. Because you're like if I push, are you really going to take here? Because like this is getting scary, and you have to keep in mind all sorts of sacrifices that might happen. I don't think this is a move you really consider. Maybe he did. I didn't ask him. But what he played was what I expected is he pushed c4, and now I at least never get to take his pawn, and he's just going to keep making threats with his rook. He just wants to keep this standing here and say, okay, what is your actual plan? Keep in mind this also protects this nicely. So he's just getting some coordination in. And in this position, I actually played this move. I went queen f4. With the simple idea of eventually maybe pushing and then just targeting g6, which is actually getting quite difficult for him to defend. Just keeping active. He again reiterated his threat now of checkmate by going bishop here. Now that the queen is no longer guarding this, but now I get time to play rook c2, and now there's no back rank checkmate because my king can always escape. So this was kind of the sequence that we were both looking at. In this position, he kept making some threats. Keep in mind my bishop's always a little bit loose, so he made a nice double threat here of going queen d5, eyeing this square and just threatening to pick up the rook. So I have to be wary about that. I don't have time to push here, and I have to make sure I don't drop this after because this is coming next very likely. So I played again the best move here, which was king h2, already you can tell, like if I can consolidate on the dark squares, and I was pretty much gonna pre-move my next 3 moves, which were bishop back, rook here, h5. I just get a very strong blockade on the dark squares, and at this point, if I get this pawn, queen trade is not really too bad for me. So in the game he played rook d8. I just dropped back the bishop, and here it's already getting. I already felt like momentum was shifting somewhat, because it is getting tricky. How do you actually attack as black? Because there's not really any weak spots. You have to be careful now. Apart from being protected, you have to be careful now that you're not getting back ranked yourself. And so it's already getting a little bit tricky, right? So he dropped his queen back. Made a lot of sense to me. Just to get out of this tempo move, I went rook d2 anyway, just activating, protecting all my pieces here. And now came a move that I love to see, not because it's a blunder, but just from a psychological point of view, is a5. And why was I so happy to see this move? I obviously can't take it because then f6 is hanging. But I was very happy to see this because it kind of indicated to me that my opponent was a little bit out of ideas to attack me. And this is just a waiting move. Because this is not really a sweat, right? The pawn wasn't in danger. So I was very, very happy to see this. And now you can see by the eval, it's actually giving me an advantage at this point. Not a huge one or anything, but this was for me a very instructive moment because the best continuation here is h5 is still correct. Just targeting this. But now after rook f8, which is also a move you love to see. Just being completely passive. Now is a very instructive moment because here I have a very strong continuation, which is simply to play rook f2 and just say you're not gonna take this, and I'm just gonna continue with my plan. The reason why I didn't see this was because I was always looking at this, but the problem is I can of course never do this because then it just hangs mate. So I have to keep the rook on the second rank, and it's a little bit of a it's a little bit of a concession because I didn't want to get my rook out of the open file, right? But the thing is, both of his rooks are passive at this point, so this is actually after you see this move, you play it, and you can actually tell that White is just winning here because there's no real defense to just picking this up. So this was actually a missed opportunity for me. And instead, I took on g6. He has to capture back, and now I played a move which looked flashy, but unfortunately does not win. I had already seen at this point that if I play knight f5, that this is actually a draw immediately. Because if he takes, I just give a check, and no matter where he goes, I just keep checking him. And the fun fact is, after this check, he actually doesn't have this rook move, because now this is a killer. Because now the bishop comes to life, and there's no way to there's no way to stop checkmate here. The only move you can do is this, and then this is going to be a checkmate. So this was a nice trap, I would say. But this is what I was playing for initially. I didn't want to. At this point, I wanted to win actually, and I played Queen h6 immediately, which is I thought was a nice trap once again. Because if you place rook h7 now, and it actually looks like it wins the queen because I'm pinned, so there's no tricks here, but I have a very nice move here, which is f7 check, and no matter how he captures, he loses in all variations. The simplest is after takes here, this is checkmate, bishop is protecting the queen. If he takes with the king, his rook falls, and this is going to be game over. Game over very soon. No matter where he goes, I get some checks in. I didn't calculate this, but it's very clear that this is losing. And after rook takes, I get the back rank, where again he has no way to protect. He can block with rook back, but this is also going to be checkmate because the queen is, while it's pinned, it's also protecting the rook, right? So I felt like this was a nice touch, and keep in mind we were both like heavily under time pressure at this point. I believe I was down to 3 minutes. He was down to maybe 7 or 8. It's move 35, so we still have to make some moves. So I thought this was a nice trap, but he of course saw it. He took the pawn on f6. And now another little bit of a heartbreaker for me was I have to take at this point. He has to take with the queen again. There's the back rank issue if he takes with the rook. And now I thought, okay, at least I can maybe try this, threatening checkmate and taking the bishop. But this is actually quite sad because after I go here, he can just block with his rook, and now there's no there's no back rank because his queen is protecting, so very nice coordination, defensive resource by my opponent here. And now I actually have to trade rooks because now if I draw back or something, he actually gets this pin, and this is actually this would be a nice way to lose the game. So this was a little bit of a little bit disappointing to me. But instead, in this position, I'm down to 2 minutes at this point, and I took an immediate draw with rook f2. And after this, we agreed to draw. Point being, after he captures my rook, now I get this perpetual on g6, h6, and if he tries to play on via going, I think queen g7 is the only real try. I actually get to I just take his rook. King takes, because if queen takes, this is actually losing for black, because now it's 2 against 3 after I trade to queen. And after king takes, I believe both queen checks here or check. I will probably give a check, but this is not something you want. This is probably also perpetual, I believe, because you have to make sure that your bishop doesn't fall. So something like this, I don't know. I wasn't too sure, but my opponent was also down on time. This is not really a human approach to do this. You're probably playing for a loss at this point. Well, what's actually the eval? Let's quickly check. Yeah, okay, it's still a draw, so maybe you could have played on, but after check here, queen takes. Okay, so something like this. Okay, maybe probably not what I would have played, but however. So yeah, actually, I believe somewhat a fair result, and definitely something I can be happy with, especially after the opening disaster and being down. But I believe a quite nice sequence where I did some decent practical decision, and another very good game for me, a fun game, and I hope you guys enjoyed this as well, as much as I did. Playing this, and have a good day, and see you next time. Bye bye.